Well, hey guys, it's Spiffyguy and I'm out here for another adventure. We are currently on the Frenchman Trail out at Cuivre River. We parked at the equestrian parking lot and campground, and then we're coming in. The trails are all sort of joined together right now as they follow along the current river down here. It's got a bit of ice on it, but the Frenchman Trail will give way to the Cuivre River Trail, I believe it's called. We'll pull the map out later, but that goes around over towards the quarry over there and then hooks around. It's kind of nice. It's supposed to get the upper 50s, and so I figured I'd do a little bit of a trail with some views. And so this is our view right now. I did see a bald eagle coming down. It was cruising down the river. So it's just a beautiful day. I'm out here. I was going to camp last night out here, but we had snow and rain in the morning that was supposed to slack off, and it did not, and it continued on all day, so that was no good. But I'm going to get rolling here. There goes the park ranger. This section of the trail follows, I think it's Chapman Road, until it hooks around the loop. So let's get rolling. All right, guys, so the temp has come up enough that I need to layer down, and so I've taken the sweatshirt off. I'm bringing out the LA Police Gear 3-day pack. I originally had this packed up yesterday for an overnight, but we had rain and snow in the morning that was supposed to cut off around 11, but it went all the way until about 9 p.m. So I bailed on that option, and so I'm just going to come out here and try to do a little hike around, play with a little bit of fire and that sort of stuff. But because I know that I'm going to have a fire, I have this medium dump pouch right here, and I've been collecting these little bits of cedar bark as I walk past it. And so other good parts of the cedar are going to be these little small bits right here. These are all the dead branches at the bottom of the cedar, and so we can break those off and stuff them into the pouch, and that way when I get to where I need to make a fire, I have all the materials that I need for a good tinder bundle. And especially since it rained and snowed yesterday, most of the wood that you're going to find, if you find any near the campsites, are going to be very wet. All right, I don't know if you guys can even hear me over the wind sound, but this is sort of on that loop. It's part of Frenchman's Bluff. It's beautiful out here, but man, this wind is killer. Hopefully the microphone can pick this up, because I know that the camera itself is probably maxing out. The trail is really nice through here. It just comes right along the ridge line. There's a bunch of cedars, and then you kind of break out. I certainly like this section of trail. It's kind of funny because some of the placards have the old numbering system, while the trees have the new numbering system, which actually matches the map that they have. So things are starting to, I guess, kind of come together for Cuivre as far as marking on the trail and things like that. The trail is a little muddy. Up here, it's not too bad. Further down, ooh, look, mullein. Further down, it's going to be a slog fest. That's a, oh, what are those things called? It's a fossil. I can't think of the name of it. Crustacean of some sort, I believe. But yeah, so I've just been collecting, little bits of cedar here and there. That way when I'm down out of the area where cedars are, I'll have some decent tinder. There's been some dried grasses too, which is pretty cool. There is 4 backpacking sites here. This is not one of them, although I'm sure people have stayed up here. It's certainly a neat view, and this would be cool to stay up here on a very clear night. You get a nice view of the skies and that Widowmaker right there. But yeah, this has been needed for sure. I have not been on the trail as much as I want to. But ooh, this wind is killer. So like I said, I was gonna try to make a fire, but if it's still super windy like this down there, I may either just use the twig stove or maybe use the twig stove as a windbreak. We'll see. Even though it rained yesterday, we are still technically in a drought, and there's been some fires down south. So better safe than sorry. It's important. Part of your skills is to know when not to use your skills. But look, dry grass, tinder. I found these mushrooms as I walked through this massive briar bush. I don't know, these are polypore I believe, but I don't know if these are the quote shelf mushrooms that you can use, like horsehoof fungus. I don't know, but there's a bunch of them. There's one up there and one over there. There's a couple huge ones over there. They're on that tree right there. So I'm not really sure. Be interested to know, let me know. I don't know what kind of trees those are. I am poorly lacking on a lot of my trees, especially in the winter. The road's right up there, so I think the split for the connector is coming up. Okay guys, so just to let you know, I parked down here. We came up, crossed over the road, went all the way up here, all the way around, and now we're right here at this road crossing. So there's the road crossing. Okay, so straight across, if we went straight across, we continue on that Cuivre River Trail loop, come all the way back down here. You'd have to hop up on this, this yellow one, come down here. I'm going to hop up the connector, cruise over here to this backpacking camp, which is really close to the grave of David Dewey. So I did an adventure one time where I came up here to look for David Dewey's grave. I'll stick that one at the end. We'll do that in the end card. So I'm going to go here, try to make some lunch, and then come down here and take this connector all the way around over here, and then come down here, cut over on connector 3, and that way I have nice views all the way back down to the end. That way I don't have to come all the way around messing around down here, because these don't really connect right here. So you have to kind of come up and come down, and it's kind of a pain. So that's what we're going to do. It is noon, so I've been hiking for maybe a couple hours. You know, the ground is thawing though, and the wind isn't too bad. So, but my goodness, it's muddy. Anyway, I'm going to cruise down here, and hopefully we can get to the backpacking camp, and we'll make up some food. All right, hey guys, just a little public service announcement here. See these little purple marks right here? If you're not familiar with that, that means private property. Do not cross. That is a boundary line, and it's kind of the same thing as a no trespassing sign, but I guess this is an easier thing to do. Sometimes it's plastic, sometimes it's paint like this. Don't cross it. One, it ticks off landowners that are right next to parks, and two, it might shoot. You never know. It's Missouri. All right, so I got my bag hung, and we're at the campsite. If you go straight out that way, you'll find David Dewey. He's around there somewhere, and he comes here at night and haunts you, because you picked a campsite right on top of a ridge. Anyway, it's a bit windy, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my little Auton Twig stove, and I sort of dug out in the fire pit to get me a little bit lower to kind of help with this wind. And I'll try to situate my feed area a little bit further away. I just need to boil up some water for coffee, and then I'll put my grill up on top and cook up a couple little hot dogs. They're already pre-cooked, so really all I'm doing is warming them up. I went out and grabbed a bunch of twigs from down by David Dewey. You know, if you're nice to David, he giveth. There's not really a whole lot of wood around here, and honestly, I don't really want to break out a saw. So far, everything I've done as far as collecting tinder and things like that, I haven't had to use a knife, so hopefully we can continue that little thread here. There was a couple chunks of wood left here that seemed kind of dry, and they might work in the twig stove as well. And that way I won't have any embers or anything that I need to put out afterwards. So there you go. Let's get rolling. All right, so here we go. Bit of a learning curve on the first one. It rolled off. It is a little hot, but you're not really going to get a whole lot of coals in the twig stove. And I'm in kind of a hurry because I'm hungry and I need to get rolling. I took that big chunk of wood out because I didn't want to have to deal with a lot of embers and stuff like that. So, so far, I'm kind of digging this little stove. I like the concept of the twig stove itself. This particular one is, I think the opening's a little bit big, but using it today doesn't seem too bad. So, you know, we'll just kind of have to see how it all plays out as I get used to it. But I boiled up water real quick, and I haven't really done or used, you know, hardly any of the sticks. I broke off a whole bunch. I got a big giant tinder bundle left there, and all those sticks that I brought over, I haven't used any of them. So I think this will be a winner, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, I'm just eating this up. I got my G7 coffee in my little Pathfinder cup here, and then we'll get rolling and head out that direction back towards the car. It's about 1:30, I think. So, you know, I think the sun goes down about 5-ish. So I should have plenty of time to get on out. All right, guys. So there you go. That was the second time I used the Auton little twig stove. It was the first time I used the grill though, and it worked out all right. The grill is just barely wide enough for the stove itself, which with the small one's kind of a problem. The one that's only half this size, you kind of almost have to do like that in order to get it on there. If you had the cross braces in, I'm sure it would work fine. The only issue I had with it is that my sausages would roll, and I did lose a few down in the ashes, had to wash them off, but they would puff up on one side because they're sausages, and then they would roll off, and I was like, no, sausage down. But I worry about this opening with a lot of material coming in, but I guess I need to play with it a lot more. I really haven't used it too much. As you can see, your hands will get a little sooty, but they do include the bags with the grill and the actual stove, which is pretty exciting. So I poured out what I had left of water in one water bottle in here, stirred it around a little bit. I'm gonna let it sit, and I'll double check it, make sure it is cool to the touch. Okay, you don't want to leave fires kind of smoldering out here, especially with this heavy wind, and you can see I've got nothing but grasses and things like that all around because you're asking for a wildfire. Make sure that your fires are put out. So there you go. That's your public service announcement for today. Those sausages worked out pretty good. They're just kind of, you know, fully cooked, heat and serve kind of things. but they're individually packaged, so you could you know, bring only 2 if you wanted to. They're a Gilbert brand. I picked them up at Walmart. They weren't too expensive. So there you go. That's kind of what it is. I'm just going to kind of clean up the area. There's some tin foil and stuff that other folks had left. So I do have a trash bag that I brought for some of this stuff. So I'll try to clean up some of that junk and pack it out since I have room in my pack. Speaking of the pack, this is the LA Police Gear 2.0 3-day pack. And I had this packed up yesterday with everything in it. And I mean, like, it was stuffed to the gills. Could barely close it. And the problem with the pack is you can put all your bushcrafty stuff in there and that's great, but then you don't have a whole lot of room left for insulation. So yesterday I had my 20-degree quilt in there and my sleeping pad because I need something to sleep on. It's very romantic to come out here and make a debris bed, you know, and you could use some of these grasses and things like that, but in all honesty, you're going to need a lot more than that to stay warm. So you got to make sure that your bag has room for that. I was able to stuff my 20-degree quilt, my X-Therm sleeping pad, and then I brought my 10x12 tarp and the 5x7 Graber space blanket as a ground sheet. So all of that was sort of my shelter sleeping scenario. And then I also brought, you know, a pair of long johns, a pair of extra socks, you know, I mean, so you got to keep in mind that you're going to need to bring these, this insulation stuff. You know, it's grand to think that I could come out here with just, you know, the little water bottle thing and go from there. I've got my cook kit, but unless I'm wearing all my insulation, then you're going to be in trouble. And like today, it was cold this morning. The temperature is already starting to drop a little bit. It's going to be cold tonight. That fleece that I had, if I was not carrying a bag, where am I going to put that? So that's other things. So anywho, just kind of rambling, but this was something that I thought of last night, that having just a smidge more room inside of this bag would be a little bit better. Now, I need to put the strap on the bottom. You could bring like a foam mat, roll it up, stick it on the bottom, that sort of thing, or strap it up on the top, and that would save a little bit of room. But really, that inflatable X-Therm, for the size to weight ratio, in regards to what it's going to give you for insulation from the ground, is so much better than a foam roll. I mean, it's the size of an Nalgene. I could probably stick it in one of the bottle holders. I guess I could do that if I wanted to limit me to only having one water bottle. So these are all choices you got to think about. You got to come out and test and make sure you have a good safety net. You know, this backpacking campsite is a little further in, but there is one that's only like a half mile, 3/4 of a mile from the trailhead. And so that's a great place if you've never backpacked before, backcountry, to kind of come in and stay there. And if things go south for you, it's just a quick, easy trail back to your car. And you could do that in the night as long as you had a good flashlight. So just some things to consider. I'm going to pack up here, though, go clean up, and go say hi to David Dewey, and then we'll head on out. All right, guys, so I made a mistake, and I freely admit it. That's it, connector number 4, okay? So if we take a look at our map, we come back down here. Let's get the focus. We were at the backpackers camp. We came south, flip it over, came down to the thing. We came on to connector 4 there, came over the creek, and now we're at this junction right here. Well, I wasn't paying attention, and I immediately hooked a right, which goes that direction. Which, if we open the map back up, once again, focus, right takes me all the way back up here, the wrong direction. That could have been catastrophic, let me tell you. So I wasn't really paying too much attention, and that is my fault. I was going fast. The clouds are kind of darkening a little bit, and I know we're going to have some rain, and I just realized that I don't have any rain gear. So I was like, well, let me start hauling patoot, right? And this trail is trashed. Connector 4, don't go on it at all. It's all bottomland, which is super cool. It takes you over the Big Sugar Creek, which is super cool as well. But it is just nothing but a mud pit. People ask, hey, are those Fall Raven pants? Yes, they are. Don't they have sort of built-in gaiters? Yes, they do. They will still get super dirty. So that's why I put on the extra gaiters, because I knew that it was going to be nasty. And being an equestrian trail, they have just tore it up. So anyway, we're going to go the right direction, which would be orient your map. See, here's the lesson learned. Orient your map. We've come to that junction. Now we know we need to go left down to connector 3. So connector 3 should be probably about a quarter mile that direction. So pay attention, folks, because even if you think you know where you're going, you'll lose a glove. All right, guys. So I find this very confusing, so I stopped. Because looking at the map, I don't know exactly where I am at. Or let's just put it that the terrain doesn't match where I think I should be. So really what you need to do is stop and really think about it. So logically, I know that that was connector 4 because there was a sign that said connector 4. So in theory, I believed that that junction was right here. I think that this trail has moved, and I think that the trail moved this direction and put that junction right there at connector 3. So, and the reason I think this is because the creek is right here. Now I know that the Cuivre River South Loop comes down next to the creek. So, and I know that based on the sun, if I look this direction, that I'm facing south. So I know I'm going in the right direction. But that connector, I walked up a little ways on that trail. If it was 3, there was no signage at all. So I know that Lincoln Hills Drive or road is over here. I know that it's that way because I can hear cars on it. And I can also pull out my phone and look. Which is cheating. I do realize that I don't have a compass, so shame on me. I need to buy another compass because the problem is I keep switching bags from one bag to the next and all the gear doesn't transfer. So if I am down here and I did miss connector 3, that's simply solved by just walking around. It adds on to my trip though. And it also keeps me in the bottomlands, which is on crappy horse trail, which this was supposed to go up hill. So there was no sign there for connector 3. And that kind of ticks me off because you're going to miss it. And that could be detrimental to somebody. So, you know, as I'm walking along, I keep seeing this creek here. And I'm like, there's no reason for that creek to be here based upon the map that they gave me. And so this is a good example of why you should kind of be aware of your terrain. Because I probably should have realized that connector 4 had connected there already, or it came down here and connected up at that junction. I don't know. So I'm going to keep walking south though, because south is going to get me where I need to go. And worst case scenario, I can always get in the creek and walk all the way down to the Big Sugar Creek Drive. And that would be, there's a picnic area right there. So not that I would need to because this is a horse trail. It's really easy to follow. But for some reason, if I didn't have a trail, I know that I have, what do they call that, a backstop? Something or other. Anyway, I'm going to keep walking before the sun goes down and I die of not having Taco Bell or something. All right, guys, so the plot thickens. So this is the way I came in on this wonderful muddy trail. And I came to a junction. I was like, what is this? I assumed it was the junction for that trail, the Hamilton Hollow Trail. It is not. So, red arrow, red arrow. Red arrow is the big, or the Cuivre River Trail. So red arrow goes that way, and red arrow goes that way. There is no right angles that are a junction here, unless, like, except for right there. But this doesn't make sense, so I don't know where I am on the map. I'm just going to keep following south, because that's the red arrow. But I thought they had resolved a lot of their flagging and connector issues. Here comes people. Wonder where they're coming from. All right, guys, so I stopped to have some water here, and I'm starting to think I know what happened. I think that junction back there may have been a continuation of the trail. So the trail went to the right. I don't know about that number 4, but after that right angle right there was another trail that went off to the right up in the woods, and that's not even on the map. So what I'm thinking is the trail that I was on was a social trail. And the way the social trails work with horses is when one goes, pretty much that becomes the de facto trail. They chew up the ground so much that you know, they just create new trail wherever they go. So right over here, it started to come up this little rise, and there was some trees now. Well, they just go around the trees, and that becomes the trail. And unfortunately, that section of trail really isn't built well. Not that they do a whole lot of tread work on this stuff, but you know, it's kind of frustrating. But now there's blazes, red blazes, like every 100 feet. So I must have got off onto a social trail. Very confusing, but I knew which direction to go. So I'm going to pat myself on the back for that. But we're going to keep heading down here and see if we can't run across Hamilton Hollow Trail, which should be to the left, coming up here shortly. So it's really odd. Pay attention out here, because, you know, I kind of hoped that they had fixed up their blazes, but this other couple that just came through, they're just like, well, we're just following the marks. Luckily we have them, because they're like, we've seen a whole bunch of trails going off. So anyway, pay attention. I drank some water. I got about half liter left, and it's kind of clouds rolling in, so we're gonna get rolling. All right, guys, so we're just about to the end here. We've got the junction with the blue trail. I don't know what the blue trail is. It's the blue trail, and that goes up to the trailhead for the yellow trail and the blue trail. They meet at the same spot, but the clouds are starting to roll in here. It's getting a bit ominous. So anyway, I'm just about done, as I mentioned, and I am certainly ready for that cheeseburger and a Coke. Let me tell you, I definitely hiked longer than I expected to. That's for sure. I don't know how many miles I've hiked. I'll have to do some quasi math with a string and the legend on the map and figure it out. But I probably hiked about maybe 10 miles. I think the whole Sugar Loop is 11 miles total, so somewhere right around in that direction. It was a good time though. I really liked that little stove and the grill. I'm hoping to get out and be able to cook more food than just ramen or dehydrated meals. I'm not much of a cook at home anyway, so it'd be nice to start cooking meat out, and hopefully later this year I'll get a chance to get down and get some fish down on the current river in that area. And I want to learn more about fish, because as you know, I suck at fishing. Anyway, if you guys have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave them down below. I certainly appreciate all the feedback, and make sure to bring your compass next time you're out in the woods, because if you get that sinking feeling of I'm not sure we're on the right trail, make sure to stop and check, because you'd be surprised. Your instincts may be better than your brain, that's for sure. And that's how people get in trouble, is they're like, nah, I'm all right, I'll just keep going, kind of like I did. But I knew where my fallback positions were. I knew that I could follow the creek down to a road. I knew that if I went in a specific direction, I'd hit the road. And I also had cell service, and I carry a battery for my phone, so I was definitely safe. But I'm rambling as I'm walking. So once again, I appreciate you guys, like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff, and hopefully I'll have more adventures coming in the future. And just remember that life is an adventure. So go out and have one, even if you get lost on the trail.